hopefully a non-controversial issue today, no. But we have the annual accountability report that is on our agenda for today. And the first thing I'd like to do is have an approval of the minutes.
I move approval. Second.
All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Motion carries. Okay. When we look at the work of our committee, and I want to kind of characterize our committee as like a three-legged stool, although we get involved in other activities. But the accountability report, the strategic plan, and also the university work plans, all three of those are very important elements of our committee. So today what we'll have is Dr. Lamont is going to give us a brief presentation, about 17 slides. He's going to go through fairly quickly. And at the end of his presentation, we'll have some discussion, and then we will entertain a motion to approve the accountability report. So with that, Dr. Lamont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do intend to be brief. I'll go through these slides as quickly as possible. I should say I'm very pleased to provide to you the 2010-2011 annual accountability report. I think it's an easy job for me this afternoon because all of the metrics, virtually all of the metrics at the system level are moving in the right direction, so my news is very good to you. And once again, I'll try to be as brief as possible. Three quick points on this slide right here. The first one, I want to remind you that the accountability report that you're looking at today is basically predicated on your previous strategic plan, and that one focused on several key areas, including providing access, meeting workforce needs of the state, and building world-class academic programs and research capacity while defining and approving university missions. So I want to remind you that you do have a new strategic plan now which goes out to the year 2025, and our next iterations of the strategic plan will reflect new metrics and the new goals of that longer-term strategic plan. The last point I want to make on this slide is simply that you have created three incredible tools right now that you need to know that other systems around the country don't have these tools. You have a clear vision with a strategic plan, with a clear set of metrics and goals associated. You have yearly university work plans that are coming in that talk about what the universities want to do to move toward those goals, and then coming back on it every year, you have this accountability report which will demonstrate how the system is working toward those goals. So your tools are very, very strong. We have, with regard to the accountability report, we've done a great deal of reformatting this year. We have tried to make it as user-friendly as possible, and we've created an executive summary, which is 25 pages, which basically covers all of the accountability measures that I'll be talking about very briefly today. And you'll be able to follow that along. But I want to begin very quickly with this slide and the next few slides that focus on the issue of providing access, degree productivity, and meeting Florida's workforce needs. I want to begin by examining the enrollments, which are fundamentally the raw material of degree productivity. This slide corresponds to pages 8 and 9 of the executive summary, and you'll see that in 2010-11 the system enrolled just under 300,008 students at all levels, not including an additional 13,000 students unclassified as to level, which gets you up to about 321,500. The system increased both its undergraduate and graduate enrollment by 3%, with all but 3 universities reporting growth at both levels. White enrollments did not change by percentage, while non-Hispanic, Black, and Hispanic enrollments increased substantially from a year ago. And finally, as a positive side issue, in this reporting period, there were 10,966 active duty military veterans and eligible dependents enrolled in the state university system. Another component of degree productivity is student retention. This is not a glamorous accountability measure, but I want to mention it for a couple of reasons. Both Presidents Barron and President Machen mentioned this last week in front of the legislature as being an important accountability measure. It is for a couple of reasons. Ours, as you can see in the state university system, is quite high at 89.4%, an increase of 2.2%. But what it means is a couple of things. Number one, it means that the students are coming to the system pretty well prepared, obviously. And secondly, it means that the institutions of the state university system are providing levels of support and infrastructure for making students feel comfortable, for ensuring their success. And finally, it means that students are voting with their feet and they're staying in the state university system because they like being here. This slide corresponds to page 7 of the executive summary with regard to actual degree productivity. In 2010-11, the university system produced a total of 76,013 degrees, an increase of 3% from the previous year. Baccalaureate production increased by 2%, graduate production increased 6%, and the university system over a longer period has increased its degree productivity by 55% since 2000 and 2001. This slide corresponds to page 7 also in the executive summary. One of the sub-goals of access and degree productivity is to increase the numbers of underrepresented students receiving degrees. This table shows the percentage increases in baccalaureate degree production of underrepresented students from the previous year: 4% for non-Hispanic blacks, 9% for Hispanics, and 4% for Pell Grant recipients. This slide corresponds to page 8 of the executive summary, and the chart breaks out baccalaureate production by student type, first time in college, AA transfers from the Florida college system, and other transfers. If you view this over a period of time, what you will see, although this past year there was quite a jump in the AA transfer, but actually if you view this over a longer period of time, you'll see that there's very little percentage fluctuation with regard to the AA transfers, which is just a good performance indicator because it shows you that the state university system is treating community college transfers equitably, point one, and two, that they're graduating in good numbers. Graduation rates, page 10 of the executive summary. For all first-time in college students, these are both full-time and part-time, the 6-year graduation rate from the system has improved over the last 5 years by nearly 2.2%. Furthermore, research indicates that a very high percentage of students still enrolled after 6 years go on to graduate. The system's 6-year graduation rate for full-time, first-time in college students was ranked 4th among the 10th largest public university systems. This slide corresponds to pages 12 and 13 of the executive summary. The board, if you recall, has identified academic programs that are in what you call areas of strategic emphasis, of which STEM is a subset. It's important to note areas other than STEM because, as an example, at least as they're defined in the state university system, the critical area of health-related professions is classified as distinct from STEM when we do our data analysis. This table shows that in 2010-11, 37% of system baccalaureates and 45% of graduate degrees were awarded in areas of strategic emphasis. This represents a 4-year percentage increase of 21% for baccalaureate degrees and a 29% increase for graduate degrees. This is looking at enrollments in STEM programs alone. During the fall 2010 term, the number of students seeking a bachelor's degree in a STEM discipline represented 24% of all baccalaureate degree-seeking students. Similarly, STEM graduate students comprised 27% of all graduate students. This graph demonstrates the extent to which STEM enrollment growth rates over the past 5 years have exceeded the enrollment growth for non-STEM programs at both the bachelor's and graduate levels in the university system. Turning now to the subject of building world-class academic programs for just a slide or two. This is, corresponds to page 16 of the executive summary and demonstrates that the 11 institutions of the university system are being more and more selective as to program offerings generally. In the past year, 27 programs were implemented in the system, while 62 programs were either terminated, suspended, or not approved by university boards of trustees. And this effort, of course, is due in large measure to the efforts spearheaded by Governor Duncan, the chair of the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. This slide corresponds to information on page 19 of the executive summary. Another indicator of program quality is the number of faculty with membership in national academies. It's obviously here you can see that Florida trails key states in this quality indicator. And it's very clear of a couple of things looking at this table right here. Number one, nobody's going to catch California. That's for sure. And number two, you can see by the numbers that if a major push was made by the state of Florida, we could jump some states. We could get up into 5, maybe the 5th, the 6th, even maybe the 4th. That's assuming, of course, that they stand still, which they're not going to do. But once again, you can see the magnitude of what we're looking at and what we have in the system right here. This slide corresponds to page 17 of the executive summary, and this and the next few slides are associated with research and development activity in state university system, another one of your key goals. Overall, the university system has increased its research expenditures by 19% since 2005-06, and research expenditures now total, as you can see, just less than $1.7 billion. This slide is providing a national comparison relative to the state university system's research and development expenditures. Our expenditures have been consistently ranked 4th in the nation among public institutions, trailing consistently California, Texas, and Michigan. At 133% growth since 1999-2000, the state university system of Florida posted a larger percentage growth than any other top 10 state in the nation. And I should just point out, I don't know if she's here or not, but with deference to President Genschaft, the University of South Florida is that one institution that has made the greatest leap in research R&D expenditures in the last decade of any institution in the United States. This table shows the top organizations in the state of Florida awarded patents for the past 5 years. You will note that at the very top, the state university system ranks number 1 in patents awarded in Florida if you look at the system as a whole, outperforming Motorola, Harris Corporation, IBM, among others. You will see University of Florida, UCF, and also the University of South Florida occupying spots 5, 6, and 7. And following the top 10 are Florida State University at number 17, Florida Atlantic at number 49, and FAMU at number 233. That pretty much constitutes the universe of patent activity that we have in the state university system. Centers of Excellence, you will remember, those of you who were board members back when initially created in the year 2003 on through the years 2008, 11 state university system centers of excellence were created. Of the 11, 10 continue today to be highly viable, all STEM related, and very much providing a return on investment. These centers of excellence are returning an investment of $3.5 for every state dollar that was originally invested in them. This slide is taking a look at generally university institutes and centers. The university system has almost 500 research centers of one sort or another across the system, associated with a variety of academic disciplines. I should say that from time to time, the effectiveness of these centers is called into question. Invariably, the question comes up, well, are they really adding value to the university system or not? If you look at this return on investment, you can see at least one kind of an answer in that they're returning $4.70 return on investment for every state dollar that's been expended in them. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my presentation. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have, or Jason is here. And I would just like to take a point of privilege to acknowledge the work that Jason did on this iteration of the annual accountability report. If it's by any great measure an improvement, it was largely through his work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your report, and I would just like to say yes, Jason and Dr. Lamont have done a great job. They tried to make the report a little more user-friendly, so they heard your comments and they responded to it, so I think they did an excellent job. With that, Governor Husseini.
Dr. Lamont, bottom line, we graduate, our undergraduate, 18% STEM. Where does that put us on percentage of graduate, 18% in the nation?
Do you have that? I passed the tough ones to Jason.
Yeah.
So that puts us a little bit below the top performing systems in the country. University of California is around 25–26% STEM. They're the highest percentage system that graduates STEM degrees.
I saw a report that put us like in the bottom 10.
We produce, I think it's the third most STEM baccalaureate degrees in the country. So when you're talking percentages, sometimes if you compare it to other systems that don't have as many baccalaureate degrees produced, the percentage can kind of skew that a bit. We're very strong in producing STEM bachelor's graduates, but as a percentage-wise, yes, it's not in the top 10.
Well, we're the fourth largest state in the country, so you would think, so you will agree that we, as far as the percentage of producing STEM, we're one of the lowest, or bottom 10.
I don't remember that rank, but we definitely have room for improvement on that. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. I mean, have you thought of running for politics? I have another question. On a report that I read, that University of Florida, on a graduate school, they graduate 6,000 plus students in graduate and higher degrees. I mean, it's incredible in comparison to the rest of the system. Do you have any comparison between, let's say, University of Florida to other universities in the country, and to also to the rest of our system? Because at the when you're in a graduate school, the benefits of those is they pay by far much higher tuition and getting jobs, and you have 20, I think, am I right? You have 27% of STEM on the graduate school. I think it was in your report.
Yeah.
You just passed. I just wrote it down, I think.
You know, Jason might want to take this one as well, or President Manchin might want to comment on that. So to make sure he's paying attention.
So the numbers are true. I mean, it's also true that as an AAU institution, our focus is on graduate education and research. So we're supposed to be producing more graduate students than a campus that has an undergraduate focus. As to what they bring to the table, if you remember, most graduate students at the doctoral level are actually paid to go to school. They provide teaching support, and they are paid through tuition to provide it. So that most of them don't pay any tuition. So they're really not a revenue generator, but they provide support, and they're very important to the undergraduate mission. I don't know exactly the percent, but a significant number of our sections are taught by graduate students.
But do you agree that the service they provide, it pays for itself? Do you agree?
Oh yes. I mean, we couldn't run a graduate research institution like ours without the graduate cohort. Yeah, and it's one of the real challenges I face that the other lesser focus on graduate people don't face. Is I have to figure out how to raise the compensation for my graduate students, because that's the determining factor in terms of whether they go to our place or go to Indiana, go to Illinois. It's what is the stipend you can offer them, and whether or not you can offer them health insurance.
Do you think, Dr. Mason, is that the reason, for instance, in the last 5-6 years you have raised $1.5 billion, and comparing to our system itself is by far higher? Do you think that's one of the reasons that you get the graduate student to graduate and get jobs and then pay back to the university and help the university and that kind of,
Yeah,
you know?
I wish it was that linear, the relationship. You know, the reality is... Hey, go ahead. He's got some time on his hands now. He may be raising money for us. But a couple of things here. We have 375,000 living alumni. A school like UCF that started in 1961 couldn't possibly have that big a cohort of alumni from whom to draw. The other thing is we're old. Our alumni die. And so we get the benefit of estate planning and things like that. So there is some bias that's in our favor. The other thing I would tell you is that I work harder at fundraising now than I have ever in my 40 years in higher education. It is really hard work right now, and we put a lot of resources into raising money as well. So it's a business, and it's something you have to work at really hard.
So do you see a help in getting these students in the graduate level, graduate them faster? They take only maybe a couple of years to get their master's degree and 3 years to get their PhDs. And is there any correlation to that or not?
You know, Governor Hussein, there might be. I haven't quite looked at it that way. There's no question that when you get students that graduate, they tend to identify with their last degree. So if they go to undergraduate at Emory and then they go to medical school at Florida, they tend to have a greater allegiance to the place where they did their graduate training. And in that case, it makes it possible for us to line them up for future support.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Any other questions?
There's no other questions to the board. I'll simply say this. This is another one. As we walk the halls and sit in the offices and the legislature appear before committees, the changes to the annual accountability report are getting a good review across the street in the legislature. Clearer, more streamlined, easier to understand, easier to use for the purposes that they deem appropriate as well. So as we continue to evolve this system, and we will over time, this is never going to be finished, one of the next iterations is to make it as completely web interactive as possible so people can draw down from it and create their own formats for it. But I want to commend Jason, RE, staff, but thank also the universities for their input and their support of trying to craft what we hope down the road will become one of the better systems of its kind in the nation. We've got a ways to go, but it is a much better product today than it was a year ago, 2 years ago, and 3 years ago. So it's going in the right direction. We thank everybody for their attention to that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could I raise a point just very quickly? This is to Board Member Hosseini's ongoing interest in STEM, which I think is critically important. It's come up at every presidential presentation this week and last week at the legislature. There are some very interesting reports that are coming out quite recently. One that just came out from Georgetown University on the subject of degree programs. And we all kind of intuitively understand that all degrees are not created equal, that different disciplines may get you to different places. But this is a fairly extended study that goes into degree programs and equates them to unemployment rates by degree program, as well as earnings by degree program. And you see some that have a high unemployment, high earnings, low, and so on. And there are some surprises in this. So I think that as you move along and you start into this area, because of the way we have these grouped, these areas of strategic emphasis I think are very important. We have some education programs in there. Those are critical shortage areas in the state of Florida. We have health-related programs that are carved out. I think it may be a good use of the committee's time to spend a little bit more time to look somewhat more granular level in terms of what degrees, at least from national studies, are producing people with low unemployment rates and high earnings and so on.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments? If not, the Chair will entertain a motion for approval. It's been moved. Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay, motion carries. With that, Mr. Chair, committee ends. And